Gilad, I don't know. Is that it then? Yeah, welcome very, very much to Conversations. Gilad Atzmon is our guest. He's been a guest a number of times, and he's here in September of 2017. He's going to be filling us in on the political evolution of events on this planet, involving things called identity politics and other things that he's very involved with. I want to show at the outset, we can show it again, this book that he's got that we want to let him know. It's a book that's out, Being in Time. There you can see it, okay, Post-Political Manifesto. And he's also got, let him know he's going to be making an appearance tonight and so forth, but he's got a new CD, or CD, and it's called, again, Train. Is that Coltrane?
The Spirit of Train.
The Spirit of Train, of
Yeah.
Coltrane, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good, you know. Okay, honey. Okay, so that's it. So welcome, Gilad. It's so good to see you, man. Always good to see you. And you're going to fill us in on this identity politics, or the politics of the world that should be understood by more and more people rather than just yourself. You're going to be able to share some of that with the audience. And welcome. So good to see you, as always.
Always a pleasure to be with you.
What is this business of identity politics, or what is the political scene that we look at on this September of 2017? What's going on politically in the world?
It is quite easy to explain, though not many people are brave enough to do so.
Brave enough.
Yeah. Now, the issue is that I understood for quite a while, but at the night of the election here in America, where Donald Trump became your president, it became clear to more than a few people that America is divided into two main groups. The identitarians and the Americans.
Americans in it?
Identitarians.
Not Republicans and Democrats.
No.
Okay.
Identitarians are people who speak as a woman, as a lesbian, as a black, as a Puerto Rican, as a gay, and so on and so on.
Okay, right.
And the Americans are people who also women and gays and black, but they identify primarily as Americans.
Okay.
It is very clear that the Americans at large voted for Donald Trump, and the identitarians voted for Hillary Clinton. I predicted that this would. I write about it now.
You've been carrying this by yourself in a very large measure.
I write about it for 10 years, and in fact, I am probably the only one who dig into this topic from a philosophical perspective. There is one American who is looking into this issue, Mark Lilla, and he published recently a book about it, but his view on the topic, though I think that we are concerned by the same things, is extremely limited, very American, very American-oriented, and to a certain extent, I believe that he conceals more than he reveals. Which is very interesting, because I'm quite sure that he's a good guy, and he's certainly.
Are you in touch?
I tried, but I
not yet.
Anyway, the issue here is that I'm looking into this topic now for quite a few
number of years.
Definitely. I published.
I think you feel a little bit lonely, because people seem to be able to cotton on.
I like being lonely, so I'm a loner. But this is not the issue. Already in 2011, I wrote a book about Jewish identity politics, and then people said, "What?" The wandering who, and people ask, "What is identity politics?" Now everybody speaks about identity politics, and
I'm not sure they understand it real well.
No one understands it really. I say no one is quite a lot, you know. No, I'm sure.
Quite a little.
I'm sure that the few who understand it may not dare talking about it because this entails a conflict with some very powerful lobbies, and they can even be violent, as we learned recently. The issue here is very simple. We are living in a society that means less and less for us. In the 60s, 70s, and even in the 80s, we were hopeful people. We believed that things were not perfect, but that we had a political system that would amend the situation.
Right.
And in the last...
One would like to think that.
Yeah, exactly. In the last 10 or 20 years, it became clear to us that this is not the case. In fact, if I have to say something about Donald Trump, the one thing that is very clear about him is that he is a symptom of fatigue. Fatigue of a political fatigue, social fatigue. The fact that the working class has become a workless class.
A what?
Workless.
Workless.
Yeah, there is no manufacturing. There is no manufacturing. And it's not an American
and that's
issue.
A trend. It's easy to project
it's beyond the trend. It's the way, it's the dystopia in which we are living.
Right.
And this is not something that is unique to America. This is the situation in Britain, in Belgium, in France, in Spain. We see 50% unemployment among young people, and so on and so on. So people are extremely tired, depressed by the political situation. And the next question...
By political and economic?
Political, economy. There is no economy. We are living, and this is something that we know since 2008, we are living on credit. All of us. And the question that comes to mind is, how is it possible that this huge shift in our universe took place while the media was silenced about it, the academia was silenced about it, the political system certainly was silenced about it? How did it happen to us that we became subject to the mercy of corporations? Mercy of corporations, and so on and so on and so on.
But now you're talking about identity, but are you also then talking about economics?
I didn't touch identity politics. It comes now.
Okay.
When you try to analyze this unique silence, you find out that there are two major elements. One is identity politics. The other one is political correctness. And I'll start with identity.
That's within the political context.
For sure.
But what about the economics that underlies it?
I don't talk about.
You don't talk about
I don't talk about. I'm not an economist.
You brought it up.
No, no.
I mean, in your sentence before.
Yeah. We can be. For me, economy ends when manufacturing ends. So we really want to understand how do we have money.
Yeah.
It's all have to do with credits. And just now I heard a very interesting analysis in a society, that doesn't produce anything. Our money comes from immigration. I'm not anti-immigration. I'm myself an immigrant.
Right.
But you need rich immigrants to come to New York to buy property. If we don't have good to sell, the only thing that we can sell in Britain, in New York, in America, is land. And this is what we are doing. This is why we see we see real estate booming, indigenous people being impoverished. And this is why Trump becomes the president.
Yeah, you got that. Yeah,
and despite the fact that he is part of that trend, we will deal with it.
Right.
Let's talk about identity politics.
All right. Yeah, good.
Identity politics was set to divide us. While in the old days the left taught us that we are all together, Jews and gays and black and white and pink. We are all together against the bad guys in the city. Now, we learn to identify as a woman, as a Jew, as a black.
As
the left,
just as Americans.
Instead of as patriots, as Americans, as a nation.
Right.
We are divided.
And that's going on all over the world, or here?
Pretty much all over the West.
Yeah, all over the West.
All over the West.
Okay.
We learned to identify with our biological symptoms, which is very strange.
Yeah.
The left, and basically we are not talking about the old left, we are talking about the new left.
Okay,
the new left actually adopted the most embarrassing aspect of Hitlerian philosophy. What is the real problem with Hitler? The fact that we put into play biological determinism. The problem with Nazism is not the idea of nationalism or idea of socialism. It's the idea of, in Hitlerism, it's the idea of racism. The fact that you are born to the wrong parents and then you are doomed to be discriminated. This is very problematic. Now, the stupid new left adopted this line of thought, and we are now divided by biology. Most of these identitarian groups are biologically oriented. This is extremely problematic. The left, or the new left, is looking for that which separates us from each other instead of the most elementary, universal thing that unites us. Now, instead,
why is that developing
we will get into it in a second. Instead of looking together, fighting together for that which is important for all of us,
much less that,
like health, education, and manufacturing, we are engaged in endless sectarian wars
against
between one against the other.
Divide and conquer.
Divide and conquer. This is what it is.
Do you think there's a class that was responsible for bringing this about consciously?
The next thing that we are going to try to do is to identify who is it that brought this disaster
or what are the
on
historical factors that did it?
What are the historical factors?
Or do we want to identify it with a certain group?
We will. There are a few ways to look at it.
Yeah, I bet.
There are a few ways to look at it.
Yeah.
What I found is that the left was foolish enough to fall into this trap because there is an animosity that is embedded in left thinking against the working class, against the indigenous. Now, this sounds almost like an absurd, because if there is one thing that's supposed to be clear about the left, is that its natural constituency is the working people.
Right.
The problem that the left with working people is established. It is quite upsetting for left thinkers, for left agitators, for many years. The fact that despite the alleged commitment of the left to the working people always vote for the right. They voted
for the what?
For the right. They voted for Hitler.
Oh.
They vote for Trump. They vote for Theresa May. Even in Britain, they have Jeremy Corbyn, who is an old-style.
The left votes for Trump?
No, the working class.
The working class.
The working class. The working class.
Yeah.
The blue collar.
Okay.
In America, they voted for Trump. They didn't vote for Hillary.
Right.
No, Hillary is
it's
exactly
not the
a left.
Academics. It's not the academics. Right. Okay.
The working class always end up voting for the right icon, and I already explained it here in this program. There are a few reasons. First, the flag is a very simple concept.
Yeah.
The left ideology is quite complicated. Once you subscribe to the flag, and you're Americans, let's say, D-Day becomes your victory. Superpower is your own power. You are the most powerful people on the planet. If you're British, Newton become your cousin, Shakespeare become your nephew, becomes your nephew, and so on and so on. The left never found a way to tackle this issue, and they basically bought into this idea of identitarianism, and they actually invented a new oppressed. So rather than us being oppressed as a society by capital, for instance, or capitalists, we have different oppressed groups. We have a manifold of oppressed people. The gay, the black, the Muslims, the Jews,
the women,
the women, and so on and so on. And each of these oppressed group is a cosmopolitan group. Exactly like the Jews. So if you want to mount pressure on Putin, we can mobilize a Jewish lobby in Moscow. Or women, and this is exactly how AIPAC is working. We basically turned everyone into a Jew. Interestingly enough, the Jewish intelligentsia, so to say, was also quite upset by the possibility of working class people being united. And for a good reason, because Jews along their history also suffered quite a bit from working class being united. And Jewish intelligentsia also saw a point in dividing society into marginal or identitarian groups. And this activity
marginalized identitarianism.
This is what we call cultural Marxism. The idea, cultural Marxism, the idea that instead of thinking in traditional Marxist way of transition of labor and ownership in terms of society,
or even just strictly economics,
we are basically changing culture. We are changing the culture. We deal with we attack some hegemonical institutions such as the family, the church, academia, and we do it through media, through TV. I argue in the book, in Being in Time, that Archie Bunker was a tremendously successful project.
Absolutely.
Archie Bunker, once a week, prime time TV. I think it was Saturday.
I don't think anything else was on the television.
You know, 8 o'clock Saturday. He attacked once a week a new marginal group and turned them into identitarian. Women, lesbians, Hispanic, black. He pushed these
poor
people.
Son, it was there with him.
One of the most interesting things for me about Archie Bunker is that we all loved Archie Bunker. According to some polls, he was the number 1 or number 2, number 3 best American TV entertainer.
Oh wow!
And
you're right.
And we were all kind of looked with a bit of contempt at the Meathead.
Yeah, right.
And look at us now. We are now nation of meatheads.
Right.
You know, as much as we didn't like Meathead, we all became castrated, polite, lame thinkers. And this is the most interesting thing about cultural manipulation. You know, I don't know, 75, 79. When was, I think Archie Bunker is like late 70s. When the CIA they were sitting in their offices and thought, how are we going to infiltrate into all these dissident groups? Mm-hmm. We have Archie Bunker delivering a revolution on prime time TV.
Right.
You know, you eat popcorn.
Yeah.
And it changes the way
with nobody realizing it.
Nobody. This is the genius work of Norman Lear.
Norman Lear.
Norman Lear. Now there is a big question: was it conspiratorial? Was Norman Lear a conspiratorial? Did he have a plan? I don't know. I don't know. I'm not so sure. But even if he didn't have a plan,
he got laughs.
You know, maybe. We had a lot of fun.
Do you think he knew what he was doing?
I'm not so sure.
What you're talking about?
I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure. But he was definitely
a genius.
A progressive. He's definitely a genius and definitely a progressive.
Yeah.
And he definitely wanted to change America and the way Americans think, and he managed. Now, some people would say that this cultural Marxism was a conspiratorial project, and I must admit that I'm not so sure, because there were problems in America. We had problems with discrimination, with abuse, with racism, and so on and so on. And this was a method to deal with them. The outcome is disastrous, because now we are paying heavily as a society. We are paying heavily as a society, not just in America. In Britain, for instance, one of the most disturbing things.
But it's a European thing you're talking about primarily. It doesn't apply.
It is exactly the same.
Is it the same in China?
It is the same. No.
No.
Because China is a manufacturer. It's a Western thing. China.
It's a Western thing we're talking
And one
about.
of the most interesting thing about, for instance, East European countries, they are quite excited about capitalism, but they are not so sure about cultural Marxism. So they say, we don't mind to become your backdoor manufacturers. We are very happy to sell McDonald's, but we are not so sure about your identitarian philosophy. We are not so sure about George Soros opening universities in our cities and indoctrinate our kids. So there is there is more than one evidence that in Hungary, in Czech Republic, in Poland, there is a rejection of Western identitarian philosophy, and this.
Where else? Or
I can say in what is happening, as we can see in.
What about in America and in Britain and so forth?
America and Britain.
Do you feel you got little company along with you on this idea?
This is one of the most.
You seem to me to be the one who's leading that thought and everything, without a hell of a lot of people cottoning on.
This is a very interesting point, and I tell you why. 2, 3, 4 years ago, we would assume that cultural Marxism and the new left ideology has won the entire West. And then we realized that the Scots wanted to separate. They say, I don't want to speak as a Scot. Exactly. I don't want to speak as a Scot. I want to be a Scot. Last year, we had Brexit.
That's right.
And we realized that the Brits, at least half of them, 51%, it's not a big amount, 51% of the Brits said, no, we want out. We want to identify as a nation.
There was talk about a lot of other people doing that seems not to have happened so much as was predicted
Look,
by a
I
number.
continue.
Yeah.
In America, Donald Trump won.
True.
In France, Le Pen
Lost.
she lost, but she is now the opposition party.
Really?
All right,
Really?
for sure,
Le
for sure.
Pen.
She was the second. She was second. You know,
A
it
strong
was
second. I didn't follow.
in Germany. I didn't see the final results, but the last time I saw it was 13% to the right, for the right-wing party, people who are against immigration and are against all those values that are pushed by the left, new left, and so on and so on. We can clearly see that there is a lot of resistance. And it's not just resistance within the so-called right, because the right is not organized yet. It is people who are primarily anti-everything, anti-establishment. In Britain, the most popular politician is Jeremy Corbyn.
I'm not real familiar. Go ahead.
Jeremy Corbyn.
Yeah.
Jeremy Corbyn is a classic old lefty. And I have a lot of issues with Corbyn, especially because he's a very nice guy.
Yeah.
So he kind of.
You know him?
I don't know him. I don't know him. I don't know him personally. I don't mix with politicians.
You don't?
No, I prefer not to. But he's I don't have any doubt that he's a very nice guy. So, you know, when they tell, I'm labor anti-Semitic, and he do whatever he can to appease those Zionist warmongers, I have an issue with this. But Corbyn became so popular for the same reason that Sanders was so popular here. There are a lot of similarities. There are a lot of similarities between. Check out what I'm saying. Jeremy Corbyn, Sanders, and Trump. And the similarity
you think
is the anti-identitarianism.
Do people do this without even realizing what you're saying?
I would believe that Sanders knows what he's doing when he speaks against identitarianism, and I also believe that Trump understands something, or maybe it was Bannon who understood it on his behalf.
You think he's out now or not?
Bannon is definitely out, but I think that Bannon understood something about. I don't have any doubt about that. Understood that identity politics is a very dangerous path for a society. By the way, I mentioned Mark Lilla, and he also who is, I would believe, a liberal, progressive, and he also understands it. A lot of people understand that if society wants to survive, we must look for that which unites us, rather than digging under the carpet
about
for
that. How divided we can be.
And the reason is very simple. If we are divided,
I would say,
if we are divided, there is no way that we can bring manufacturing back. If we are divided, we cannot make sure that our kids receive proper education. If we are divided, we cannot push our society forward. And this is exactly the outcome of identitarian politics. And as I said, despite the fact that it looked at a certain stage as if the progressives, the liberals, have won, they are now realizing that they are on the way out.
The
and
liberals are on their way out. The left, you say, or
the new left, and I don't know what is left out of the old left. You know, even when I speak with supporters of Corbyn in Britain, one thing that is very clear to me. All right, let's say that Corbyn resign. Who is going to take place? They don't have five old leftists lining up to take his position. All right, is there a replacement for Bernie Sanders in America? Not really.
I don't think
It was
so.
a unique. It was a
think
unique.
If he could have gotten the nomination, he could have beat Trump?
I'm not so sure because Trump is not committed to anything. If Trump had to to combat Corbyn, who is basically identitarian, Trump would go for the real estate tycoon and would say, "Trust me, you know, let's develop an aristocracy." Trump is not committed to anything that is ideological, or he's not committed to the concept of integrity, which is quite interesting.
Yeah,
it's quite interesting
in these times,
and this is exactly the symptom of post-political condition.
Post-political,
which is exactly the title of the book. Being in Time, a post-political manifesto. This is the title of the book. This is
the
what
title of what book?
The book, the Being in Time, the book that we.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get it. Yeah. Being in Time, a post-political manifesto. Sure enough. Yeah. Sure enough. I had forgotten that I had missed the subtitle. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
now what?
So this is what I'm doing. I'm traveling all over the world. I'm playing every night and talking about this book. I think that this book doesn't provide answers. It doesn't tell you how to sort out your problems. I don't believe that it's my job to solve problems. I see myself as a philosopher. And as a philosopher, my job is to refine the questions, to teach people how to ask the most crucial questions, how to deconstruct the situation, how to understand what we are up against. What you do is it. Once you understand the problem, is your business.
So what are we up against? I mean,
we are
in broad terms.
In broad terms, and this is very interesting, I believe, I came to a conclusion that in order to understand what is happening here, I have to go back to Leo Strauss and his notion of Athens and Jerusalem.
Athens and Jerusalem.
Athens and Jerusalem.
I didn't realize he had a thing between the two. I didn't.
Yeah. He was quite. I don't agree with him, but I will elaborate on the terms and then we look into them. Athens is the birthplace of philosophy, of science, of ethics. In Athens, we think things through. Jerusalem is the complete opposite. Is the city of revelation. Is the city of 10 commandments. Is the city of law. Do that, do that, do that. Don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. You can talk to Norton Mizvinsky and talk to him about Naseh v'nishma. This is in Hebrew.
I don't know.
First, we do. First we obey. Then we think. All right?
That's,
Leo Strauss thought that there was kind of a dialectic relationship between Athens and Jerusalem. And the Western society, Western thinking, is this outcome of these dialectic relationships. And I came to a conclusion that this is not the case. it's a war. It is a war between Athens and Jerusalem. We are where we are because Jerusalem prevailed and Athens was wiped out. And yet, and this is very important, every good thing about our society comes from Athens. Philosophy, aesthetic, science, logic, spirituality, not just from Athens, I must admit. We have some other sources. Freedom of speech.
Those all sound
the
like
art
good,
of debate.
It all
These
sounds good.
are.
It all sounds good to me.
These is the Athenian heritage. We replaced it with correctness, with tyranny of correctness, political correctness. Why we cannot talk about identitarian politics? Why can't we criticize it? Because it's politically incorrect.
Why?
Because political correctness is politics that doesn't allow political opposition. This is exactly the definition. This is exactly a commandment. You cannot even even allowed to ask why. This
sounds like the military.
Exactly. It is worse than the military. Because in the military, you at least realize that you are subject to order. But in the case of political correctness, you don't even understand the system of oppression because it is driven by self-suppression.
And you don't even get any humor allowed.
Definitely not. Definitely not. Definitely not. Humor, because humor is always essentialist. And you're not allowed to be essentialist. You cannot talk about Jews, you cannot talk about black, you cannot talk about women. So the humor is kind of basically obliterated. You know.
Now that's a problem.
This is a problem.
What about jazz?
Jazz has been obliterated a long time ago, which is great for me because I'm still playing, I'm playing John Coltrane, Charlie Parker.
Keep doing it.
Anyway, so I realized that progressives, and it's very depressing, and the left always subscribe to a Jerusalemite way of thinking, of right and wrong. It's not an open discourse. If you call yourself progressive, it means that you see someone else as reactionary. This is exactly a symptom of chosenism, exceptionalism.
What's the role of Marxism? Marx.
Beautiful question. Beautiful question. Marx, I believe, was an Athenian. He was a man who loved wisdom, thought things through whether you agree with him or not. The Marxists are always Jerusalemite, anti-Athenians. So Jerusalem is not Jews. Tony Blair is a Jerusalemite. Trump is a super Jerusalemite.
Super Jerusalemite.
He's unique. Definitely Hillary Clinton. When Hillary Clinton calls Trump supporters a basket of deplorables, she becomes the chosenite, and they become the goyim. All right? All right, and the left, or the new left, or the progressives, or the liberals, or America, is paying heavily for this exceptionalist way of thinking. And once you point at it, you become yourself the enemy of these people, because this is the way Jerusalem deals with dissent. With dissent, I'm lucky not to be nailed to the cross yet.
Where is it all heading? Where do you see 2, 3, 5 years out in that?
I think that the rise of nationalism, which is something that we see within left and right.
Yeah, that's true.
By the way, left and right kind of archaic notions that mean very little if there is no manufacturing. You know.
The goods.
I believe that the rise of nationalism or patriotism is definitely one way to deal with it, because it is there to unite us again as people. The problem that I see is that the alt-right, for instance, in America, you know, is falling exactly into the same trap of the leftists, because they also now think as identitarians, as white. They have a huge opportunity now to tell people it doesn't matter if you are white or black or a woman or a Jew. Let's get together and sort it out. Now, interestingly enough,
but they want to
there is an element of what I'm saying here in Trump's ideology, or Trump philosophy, if you can call it ideology. And I think that this is something that he borrowed from, or that's something that Bannon probably planted.
I would be a bit surprised, or the Pannons in his life.
And I'm kind of slightly depressed by the idea that even Trump himself doesn't really understand what he's saying, you know.
Yeah,
but
no, I think there's a real case for that.
I don't know because he has a great opportunity to unite this nation, and so far I didn't see any step.
Where does economics fit into all of this?
It's very simple. It's very simple.
Or how does it fit?
I try to be as brief as I could. One of the reasons that working class people don't buy into the idea of the revolution is because they are working class.
That's right.
Working class are people who go to work.
They go.
So you told John, tomorrow we start kind of 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock there is a revolution. So now are you crazy? I have to go to work.
Yeah, right.
It's not going to work.
Right,
you know, you have to wait, and you know, I have my holiday. You know.
They've been trained with that.
Yeah, exactly. They are working. They are working class because they are going to work.
Yeah.
But now they don't want to go to work. There is less and less work, not just in America.
Now, wait a minute, what about and that's intrinsic to the way things are going.
Exactly. So talking about class.
Are you following in on the robotics development and the implications of that?
For sure.
I think that's
for
huge.
sure.
I think
and by the way, no doubt about it. But if we, for instance, start to think, if we start to think in national terms,
all right.
And strong central government, for instance, that sees its duty in pushing work, making sure that there is a reason for people to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Go on the job.
You know, you know, and
that is the major thing.
And then you can
get educated, so you'll be qualified to go to work.
You can even say, you know what? Despite of the fact that I can make things with robots, I would prefer to do it because there are incentives by the government through taxation and so on and so on. You know, you protect local industry.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, with taxation and so on and so on. There are ways to do it.
And the role of work as in the principle. Yeah.
Because as I mentioned before, at the moment, the only thing that sustains economy rolling in Western society is immigration. We are selling land. We are selling land.
Spell it out a little more. Yeah,
this is quite a devastating. This is quite a devastating.
This is from foreign investment.
This is quite a devastating concept. If we don't produce anything in New York, the only thing that we can produce is land.
Yeah.
We are
What
selling.
about,
We
what
are
about
selling.
real estate?
This is what I'm talking.
Yeah.
We are selling our flats to rich foreigners, people who come from money from abroad, from China.
Are reaching our what? Our flats?
Flats, your flats.
You mean apartments?
Yeah.
Oh,
your,
right.
Your
yeah.
apartments.
We know about that. Yeah.
Yeah, for
right,
sure.
Right.
All right.
Or
We
these big buildings. You walk out of here, they
and
got
the
buildings
meaning
that's
of
the
it
sky.
is that the indigenous people are obliterated. All right.
Yeah.
They don't stand a chance.
Well,
And this is exactly.
But will the same thing catch up with the people in other parts of the world that
For sure.
are not affected to the same degree yet?
In London, we see a lot of
Or what about China?
a lot of real estate developments at the moment. Now,
You
I'm
do.
not.
You're in London now.
Yeah.
Mostly. Yeah. Okay.
And I'm not an expert, but these are not houses for London working class people. I can see it.
What are they?
It's posh buildings
Oh.
for foreign investors. They want to make it into New York.
Where are all these
Now,
foreigners coming
how
from?
many jazz artists can still live in Manhattan now and go to play in Smalls or in the Village Vanguard? None.
Really?
They're all pushed out for sure.
Economically?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay.
So first they put to Brooklyn and to Queens, and then they move to New Jersey, and eventually they just give up.
They're in Podunk.
I know of
Yeah.
some great musicians. You know, it's always been the case.
Yeah, right,
of
right,
musicians
right,
kind of living on poverty line, but the meaning for New York is that it becomes a city with no culture.
Oh God.
Because and the same happens in London.
You think that's the trend? You see it in London too?
For sure.
You do,
I
yeah.
see it in every city. It
the
becomes
same
a
old
real
thing?
estate haven for foreigners.
But is it the same thing where Vincent couldn't sell anything to the Dumkos and the shops and the museums up in Paris? He's creating all those things, and it wasn't recognized.
In what? Sorry.
Well, Vincent Van
Yeah.
Gogh.
Vincent Van Gogh. Oh my
things
God.
now that fetch millions and millions of dollars,
For sure,
and
not
the
this, not-
schmucks up in
I
the
tried to think
he couldn't sell a single thing because he was not recognized.
For
you
sure.
know?
Yeah. This is
That's a romantic.
yeah.
thing,
This is and
Yeah.
the
I
thing.
mean, the jazz musicians may soar.
Let me tell you. No,
I'm trying to be-
I'm as a jazz musician.
Yes,
I live in London.
I'm here to satisfy you. Not only jazz, you're extraordinary. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. But the thing is that when I think of let's say people with my kind of talent,
Yeah.
who are 18 years old or 20 or 21 or 22,
Yeah.
and they consider, taking my path, becoming jazz musicians. It's
You
going to be,
better you become a bookkeeper.
I don't know. I don't know what, I have kids. I don't know. I don't know. There is no. When I was young, I thought, okay, I'll go to university. I'll try to be a saxophonist, and if it doesn't work, I'll go to work in a factory. My kids do not have a safety net at all.
Yeah.
Kids in their age, that's it. It's over.
20-year-olds in that?
20 years old. There is nothing out for them. When we were young, politicians would come to your town and promise to bring work.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that was the measure of things. Yeah, right.
They don't do that
That was a
anymore.
way of getting buying power.
Now
into their hands.
they promise
Well,
credit.
they're going to be in a hell of a state if that extends out to the world. You're going to have a hell of a time getting all these production capabilities and things like overcoming all kinds of scarcities that were there and everything, and all the deprivation. If you don't have any money, if there's no way to get money to people, if they're not going to be needed for work.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
The serfs
So-
are no longer
so-
needed.
so-
The serfs are no longer needed to
This-
build the pyramid.
So we have food, we have McDonald's and pizza places, and real estate, and that's all. This is all, and it provides reasonable income to just very few.
Well,
in England, Britain, our number one industry is a finance industry. It's finance industry, which is few streets.
Yeah, but
why
in
the city? You can put them on two jumbos and they go to somewhere else.
Yeah, I know. Are we going to have to make it so? If this is a trend that's coming, and it's coming technologically and everything like that, you're going to have cars driving themselves and all kinds of things like that, and all the robotics and so on. We're going to have an alternate way of forming capital as a way of getting some ownership into the hands of the masses of people rather than just as laborers.
But by the way,
to finance things where they can get a piece of the action to get income, then they'd be free to do what they wanted.
By the way,
but the income is what really, the lack of the income, the lack of funditis. It's a disease, lack of funditis. Do you get the bar?
Yeah.
Lack of funditis is a terrible disease. If you get funds to people, you got to have a way of forming capital that will get funds to them the way things are being produced. But we don't have anything like that because they keep it all for the few. And the inequities that have been characteristic of the whole of human history may be coming into a new era evolutionarily or something.
I do not think that we can think about equality and justice and any form of sharing unless we remove ourselves from globalist thinking and revert to nationalist ideology.
You think so, yeah?
This is the only way.
Yeah.
What do you think? Would you like to think as an American of a worldwide equality? No, but you can think about equality in terms of the United States, or more specifically in terms of states. The states of New York.
It's a problem that confronts humanity.
Absolutely, but the whole idea is that
it's not going to go away.
For sure, the problems are problems that we share everywhere.
Yeah.
The solutions must be localized. We have to protect ourselves. For instance,
well, you have to get money to people somehow.
For instance,
if they can't be workers, they got to have some way of getting money.
The state of New York, when time comes, can say, no, we don't. Listen. We don't allow in this state self-driving cars.
Oh, you think they'll get to it? I don't think there's any
All right,
chance of
this
that.
is the only way to do it.
There's no chance of doing that.
This is the only way to do it.
Where
we cannot prevent it worldwide.
You can do it by fiat.
But we can say we don't allow it because
the drivers.
Because the drivers will be left to die.
Yeah, but that's not going to work. That's not going to hold it back.
I don't care if it holds it back. Yeah. I care whether I sustain a living, where I make a living, and I make sure that other people are making a living.
But maybe the idea of work is outdated, or a job. Maybe there's a term Job. Job was a character, out of Job. Ponderously doing it. You have to get up and go and work at the mill, and it's a great and all these work ethic things. Maybe people should. What people need is money. How do you get money to them?
I cannot see.
And they may be liberated from having to do the things they used to have to go down in sewers and things like that. They don't have to do it anymore.
I cannot see a society. I cannot see. This is maybe I'm a reactionary here.
No, I don't think you're reactionary.
No. For me, reactionary.
You're calling forth a conundrum that's being confronted and has to be confronted some way.
I believe that our job is to make sure that humans are sustained by their own production, and the role of the politician is to make sure that the opportunity to work and to make a living is there for everybody.
No, I think that's going to maybe become outdated.
Maybe
I think it's going to become outdated. People are going to have to be true to do things like jazz music and all the other things that
by the way,
that's what they want to do.
Look at the history of your jazz artists. Your best. No, it's very good. Your best jazz artist.
Poor Vincent died starving.
Your best, true.
Mozart was buried in a pauper's grave.
And look,
All the things
and listen to the
worthwhile.
music that he produced.
Yeah, I know. I mean,
Now-
that's what I'm
now-
saying.
now
Maybe
you
they
have-
could be free
now
to
you have
do something
musicians who are
worthwhile instead
now-
of making money.
Now you have musicians who are filthy rich, millionaires,
Well, there
and
is
listen to the
some-
music
that
that
is
they are
some-
producing.
No, well,
You know,
yeah.
Wes Montgomery had a day job. You know, and he played better than anyone
Yeah,
else.
yeah.
All right? Cannonball Adderley had a day job. I think he was a teacher. You know,
True. Yeah.
there's not a single saxophonist who
Are
can
you
play as
we
beautiful
only
as
got a
him.
couple few minutes left. Are you optimistic? Let's take 10, 20, 30 years out or something like that. Are you optimistic for the human prospect or pessimistic? Or is that if that's too fine a tune or something? What do you think the chances? How do you like this thing with Mr. Trump talking about bombing the bejesus out of North Korea, and the guy up in North Korea is building hydrogen bombs and putting them on missiles, and the weapons are species lethal? We may not have to worry about it. We may just kill everybody with the weapons that now can do that.
By the way,
That's a pretty bad negative.
I didn't want to say it. I didn't want to say it.
Oh, do say it.
But-
Do say
but-
it. You've only got
but-
2 minutes.
but this
say
is-
it quick.
okay.
Use haiku.
Okay, this is the real issue. Unless we manage
Yeah.
to bring manufacturing work and let people
Well.
live decent
Decent
life,
lives, yeah.
satisfying life,
Yeah, that's for sure.
satisfying life,
Yeah.
we will see huge wars.
Oh, God.
Huge wars, and I'm talking about wars that will destroy large chunk of the thing called humanity.
The weapons are, by scientific measurement and by value and so forth, they're species lethal now.
Yeah,
We
absolutely.
couldn't do that in the Second World War.
Absolutely.
We were impotent
Yeah,
in
yeah,
our own
absolutely,
ignorance.
absolutely.
Yeah?
So,
Yeah? That's
so
different. There's
so
something different going
it is
on.
the responsibility of each nation to get its own nation, its own society on its feet. I see the Brits are concerned with it. This
Yeah,
is why.
yeah, well,
this is why
everybody
Corbyn.
is.
This
Yeah.
is why Corbyn is so
Yeah.
popular. This is why Brexit happened. Not that it doesn't matter. You better
No, I can
support
see the
Brexit.
connection.
You
I
know.
can see the
And
connection.
one good thing about Trump.
Yes, yes.
One
yes,
good thing
yes,
about
yes,
Trump.
Yes, yes.
Whether we agree with Trump or not, and obviously I'm not a Trump supporter.
Obviously.
One thing very positive happened in America.
What's that?
People are now debating political issues,
Oh, well, that
and
is-
they
that
really
is something to be said, yeah.
it's a very vibrant discussion, and it's something that your country didn't experience for 2 or 3 decades.
Right, it's not the first time
All right?
extremists has come
You know?
about with
So it
real
is-
new
so-
impetus to
so-
create. One of the problems we have, Kylie, one of the problems we have is we don't have unlimited time. As a species or as a program producer.
This is true.
We've run out of time, my
This
brother.
is true.
So I have to say thank you very
Pleasure,
much.
man.
And you're really you're getting it more and more together. The book is widely recommended, to be recommended by moi and by everybody thinking this guy's. And one thing you should do, you're going to be, you should hear the man play. It's like the angel. Yeah. So anyway, Gilad, thank you.
Thank
It's
you
so
so much.
great to see you. And he's got a new thing out celebrating Coltrane. Here it is, a CD that could be available, right?
Yeah.
Okay, it's so good to see you. Welcome to Manhattan.
Thank
It's
you so
your
much.
hometown, pal. Okay.
I
Give my
wish.
best to Brzezinski, right? You know.
Yeah, I will.
And the memory of who's the man that I did that was so back when the famous guy in India, the guy that you like so much in the history of Israel.